What's going on, guys? This is Riggs, and thank you so much for tuning in to the very next episode of How to Play Like a Pro. Without a doubt, the hottest series on the channel. And wouldn't you know, look at who we have featured, you guys. We have Midas Gaming, aka YouTube Midas, who's also known as being the #1 ranked squad player on the Asia server. Out of anybody requested, since we did the Athena video, this is the next guy in line as far as how many people, countless and countless, hundreds upon hundreds of people have been requesting for me to reach out and contact Midas. So what did we do? We went out and we found him. I talked to him on stream via a translator. I want to give a big shout out to my good friend. I've actually played some matches with him this season. A big shout out to Rated R, who is at like a translator, like a personal translator for Midas, because Midas, his first language is not English, so he helped out immensely with this interview. That's what we're doing on this series, you guys. We are getting translators in order to bring you guys some of this content. So make sure you guys drop a like, subscribe if you have not already, and definitely leave any comments, questions, or concerns down in the comment section. I'll be checking all those out. And again, hopefully you enjoy the gameplay that we have playing on the screen for you. Let's get right into this, you guys. Midas, the #1 ranked player in Asia, right here, doing a interview on Riggs Gaming. Okay, you guys, so the first question, like I always say, we always start off with some of the softball questions, and then we'll get into more of the tips and tricks and things like that. So I asked him, because I didn't know when I was actually watching his stream, I asked him what country he was from, and he's actually from South Korea, which is the same country that Athena is from. Let me know in the comment section if you guys would like to see Midas and Athena do like a duo versus squads or something. How dope would that be? Athena and Midas just wrecking house on the Asia server. That would be insane. But yeah, he is from South Korea, just like Athena. And then I asked him how long he's been playing for. And he says he's been playing since the game was released. He actually started playing PUBG PC as one of the top rankers. And then when mobile came out, he switched over to mobile. And then the device that he plays on is an iPad Pro 3rd generation. And next I wanted to ask him what his favorite loadout was. And we'll go ahead and talk about attachments as well. And you're going to see that his favorite loadouts that he says or in this interview is exactly what you're going to be seeing on the screen as we are spectating him. I asked him what his favorite loadout was. He says he's usually using an M4 for mid and long range and an Uzi for close range. He says, I think this is the best loadout for for the higher tier gameplay. He says sometimes he uses a DMR when he plays at lower tiers. And then I said, what attachments or scopes do you like using on these weapons? He says, for M4, I use comp and angled grip. One thing I'd like to mention, it seems more often now than before, it seems like a lot of these players that we've been interviewing in this series have been actually going with the angled grip for their sprays. Very, very interesting. But yeah, he did mention he likes the compensator and angled grip on the M4 and uses all different types of scopes. But if he had to pick his favorite, it would in fact be the 6X. Also asked him what his favorite map was and why. And he says Erangel. He says, I spent a lot of time on this map when I played PUBG PC. He says, I think Erangel is the hardest map out of the 4 and also the most well-balanced. And I asked him, I said, you're currently ranked #1 in Asia squads. What ranks were you in other seasons? Because people had only started mentioning him back in season 9. And he says that he was actually #1 ranked in the KRJP server last season, which would have been season 8, and also in season 4. So he was ranking up in the KRJP server before he switched over to the Asia server. And okay, now we'll get into some more of the juicier questions. I said, you win over 70% of your matches in the server that's known to be the most difficult. I said, what's your secret to winning more games? He says, well, it's about how confident you are. Don't get nervous and keep communication with teammates. This is the most important thing. And one thing I noticed when I was watching him on his live stream is this. It doesn't matter how sweaty the games got, it didn't matter if they were getting third party, if they lost a teammate. At all times, this dude is always cool, calm, and collected, and he's never panicking or anything like that, because that's when you start making mistakes, you start pressing wrong buttons. Your 200 IQ play that you wanted to do ends up turning into a 10 IQ play, and you end up going to the lobby. So yeah, that's one thing. Again, just playing the game, practicing is what's going to keep those nerves at bay. And I said, do you always play with the same squad? I know a lot of people ask this in regards to some of the pro players, where they say, oh, the reason why their win ratio is where it is, or their KD is where it is because they're playing with the same people all the time, and they're always, playing with all these OP players, basically. And he says, no, he does not have permanent teammates. He even sometimes will even go solo v squad. Remember, at the end of the day, this Midas is a content creator, and sometimes you have to do crazy things in order to get content. It's just kind of how it's kind of how the game works, no pun intended. But he'll even solo squad conquer sometimes. So very, very impressive. Then I asked him, what does your inventory look like normally? How much ammo, smokes, frags, boosts, etc. do you carry? I never even thought to ask this question, but I know a lot of people were asking it in the previous episode, so it's something I've kind of actually grown to kind of like. I'm curious to see how these other guys, how they configure their inventory versus myself. So he says for 5.56 he has I don't know if this is OCD or what, but he says he has 333 rounds for 5.56. He says for 9mm 110. He uses 2 nades, 3 smokes. I'm actually surprised he doesn't use more smokes. Or maybe just when he's playing with a full squad, if everyone's kind of chipping in. But yeah, he says 2 nades, 3 smokes, 5 drinks, and 5 painkillers. Another thing I wanted to mention as you guys are watching this gameplay, you'll always notice this dude is always boosted. Always. It doesn't matter what is going on. He's always boosted, and maybe I'll do like a little montage so you guys can see it, but he's, especially towards that mid to late game, you'll never see that bar not full. But yeah, 5 drinks, 5 painkillers, that'll definitely keep that bar full for sure. And I said, what's something about you that nobody knows? I said, this can be anything. So this is something I kind of want to bring into the series, just a kind of a glimpse, to see a side to people that you normally wouldn't see in this spotlight. So his response was, he says he started broadcasting because people thought that I was using hacks to play the game. So the reason why, when he says broadcasting, he's talking about the reason why he started making videos is because when he was ranked up in Asia and in KRJP, people were saying that he was a hacker, that he was a cheater, that he was using hacks and controllers and emulators and all these things. So what did he do? He made videos saying, look, I'm legit. I am not hacking. I am not cheating, in a server that literally has the most cheaters in it. And this isn't me saying it. These are the numbers. These are the facts. These are numbers from PUBG. The most hackers are from the Asia server. This dude wins 70% of the matches. He has the hand cam on. So as far as hacks and cheats and all that, he went ahead and said, you know what? Fine, I'll go ahead and make some videos. So I thought that was cool that he mentioned that, because I had no idea. And I said, do you plan on playing competitively in the future? And he says, yes, definitely. So that's something we could also look forward to in the future, is maybe seeing Midas in the PMCO. Imagine that. And I said, what is your number 1 tip for ranking that could help everyone, considering he gets more points than anybody? He broke the record last season. He says, do solo squad more often. This will help you a lot more than anything else. You can play as showing off in low tier, but it doesn't make you any better to play in high tier such as Conquer. He says, this is why I do not like streamers who play in low tiers showing off their skills. Damn, Midas calling out the PUBG Mobile community, saying you guys uploading these solo v squad gameplay in gold and platinum and all this stuff. He's calling all of them out. He says, I'm doing that, but I'm doing that in Conquer. So yeah, I said, what are your top 5 tips? Your top 5 tips that would make anybody a better player. This is what he says. Tip number 1 is, he says, remain calm, which you already kind of touched on earlier on into the video. He says, remain calm. And you just, plain and simple. Tip number 2 is low sensitivity. And that's one thing we always want to dial in. I know Athena also mentioned in his interview where it took him something like 3 weeks to dial in his sensitivity. Get your butts to the training ground. That is how you're going to be dialing in your sensitivity to where it's perfect for you. When people are asking, oh, show us a screenshot of your sensitivity, I don't like doing that because everybody's different. Everybody has different feels. So anyway, you have to dial in that sensitivity. Number 3 is focus on sound. Another thing, a lot of these tips, you guys, there's a reason why a lot of these, the top 5 tips these pros are telling us, they're all very similar. Focus on sound. Get yourself a good set of headphones. This, you have to be good. Just play with headphones. Don't play with the speaker coming out of your phone. But yeah, focusing on sound. Everyone says that this is more of a sound game than it is a sight game. Could not agree with that more. Tip number 4, use objects to cover yourself, especially when you're about to start shooting. This will even happen to me. I catch myself doing it sometimes, especially when I get bodied and I'm going back to the lobby, is when you get excited, you see somebody and you start shooting at them and you realize there's no cover around you. There's no rock, there's no tree, there's not even a bush, a building, a wall, nothing. And then you're just out in the open. It can be very, very frustrating, but it's something that you just have to train yourself to do, is know that before you're going to take these shots, if you start getting shot at, you have to ask yourself, if I get knocked, am I going to have cover? Or if I start getting shot at, will I be able to get to cover within a split second? And if the answer to that is yes, then start shooting. If the answer to that is no, maybe go ahead and hold off and take another angle. Tip number 5, he says, calculate drop of bullets. He's talking about especially sprays. When he's talking about the actual drop. CQC, you're not worrying about bullet drop. This is for that mid to long range. And again, playing in the training grounds and just getting those games under your belt, you'll be able to perfect this, knowing how to lead your shots. Tip number 6, which kind of goes hand in hand with tip number 5, is having the perfect aim. So not only having that good reaction time, but plain and simple, putting that crosshair on the enemy and making sure you're landing all those shots. And again, having perfect aim will couple perfectly with the low sensitivity, keeping calm, the sound, all of these things. Notice all of his tips are all kind of intertwined. It's not like he's like, peppering all these different tips all over the place. All these things, you gotta have one in order to kind of have the other. And the 7th one is left thumb movement, talking about the direction of your character, up, down, left, right. The left thumb movement is what prevents, he says, from getting those headshots. Constantly moving is what he was trying to say right here. Again, we did have a translator for this interview. A big shout out to Rated R. And I said, anything else you would like to mention at the very end? And I just wanted to basically thank him for doing this interview. He says, watch your favorite streamer and pick who you should watch. At the end of the day is your choice. But make sure you know the tier of the streamers, that you're watching play. He says, know what their KD is, with average damage, so on and so forth. He says, you can find something that you could learn from watching your favorite streamer. Watching streamers who play in low tier. Here he goes, Midas taking shots again. I gotta play with this dude. He says, watching streamers who play in low tiers, they will show you crazy hand movements, but it's low tier. When you go to high tier, those kinds of things will not work. He says, whatever you watch, that's what you will get. And he says, thank you for giving me this opportunity. Hope we can collaborate sometime. Ooh! Imagine a Midas carrying rigs video. How epic would that be? Again, I want to give a big shout out to Rated R for translating this. Again, he doesn't speak the best English. He is from South Korea, but he is learning English. But big shout out to Rated R being his personal translator. How dope. Guys, where else are you finding this content on YouTube? Tell me. I'd really like to know who else is getting translators to bring you guys Play Like a Pro series. But yeah, one thing about this guy, as I watched, you guys are watching a couple different clips or a couple different games that you've been watching on the screen. But one thing I'll tell you, I watched a few of his games, you guys, and no matter what, he does not lose. It doesn't matter if he's solo squad, if two people get knocked or two people get thirsted early, it's just him and another teammate. He knows how to play and he knows how to get those wins. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully you found it helpful. Again, let me know in the comment section, as always, who you'd like to see featured next. You guys wanted Midas Gaming, so what did we do? We went ahead and brought you guys Midas Gaming. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this installment of How to Play Like a Pro. Like, comment, and subscribe. But until the next video, this has been Riggs from Riggs Gaming.